Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want to drop in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
This is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. But first, our top stories. The mother of a 9-year-old boy killed in an attack on a Christmas market in Germany has paid tribute to him, saying he will always live on in her heart. The actor and director Justin Baldoni has rejected claims of sexual harassment made by his co-star Blake Lively. And Belfast City Airport's runway has been closed after a plane's nose wheel collapsed as it landed in adverse weather conditions. Hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. In the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the journalist and author Rachel Shabi and the journalist and broadcaster Daisy McAndrew. Thank you both for being here. Let's see what's on some of those front pages now. Well, the Financial Times quotes Reform UK's Treasurer Nick Candy as promising political disruption like we've never seen before. It comes after he and Reform's leader Nigel Farage met Elon Musk last week. Amid suggestions, the billionaire could soon make a multi-million-pound donation to the party. The Express leads with a warning from business leaders who, it says, believe Labour is driving the nation into a recession by creating a hostile climate for aspiration, investment and growth. There's more bad news for the Chancellor on the front of the Mail as businesses warn that the economy is heading for the worst of all worlds. The Eye hears the Prime Minister may face a rebellion from his own MPs in the new year over his refusal to compensate the so-called WASPy women for their lost pension funds. The Guardian, meanwhile, leads on an exclusive, revealing that local authorities spent £100 million in failed efforts to block support for children with special educational needs. The Mirror lead with a Christmas appeal as a toddler is in need of a double organ transplant to give him the gift of life. The Sun has the latest now from Tyson Fury as the defeated boxer vowed it's not over and contemplates a bout with Anthony Joshua. And the Star bemoans what it says are people's low personal hygiene standards over the festive period. We'll find out soon enough. And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's papers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Rachel Shabi and Daisy McAndrew. Thank you both so much for going through the papers with us. It is sort of the weekend before Christmas, but there's this horrific story from Germany still dominating the headlines. So let's start with that. In a lot of the papers, but let's start with The Guardian. On the front page, they're saying that Magdeburg's suspect was known to police. And that's one of the questions, you know, whether this attack in some way or another could have been prevented. Daisy.
Well, exactly right, because, of course, this attack has two elements to it. It has the horrendous personal element of the injured and the dead, and then the wider political impact of this attack. And all the questions being asked now, was the suspect known to the authorities? And we've now heard the Federal Police Services confirmed that they were warned about this individual, that he was somebody they should be aware of, they should be watching. And, of course, as a result, we're going to see a lot of Germans and possibly other Europeans intensely criticising the German government and the German authorities. And then we've got to think about what are the ramifications of that. We've already seen some protests, we've already seen some anti-immigrant sentiment and so on. So the ripple effect from this horrible attack could be really, really significant. And German politics is a mess already.
Yeah, well, they have elections coming up, I think, February 23rd. Yep. And it's been interesting, beyond Germany, a lot of far-right leaders, I think it was Geert Wilders, Marine Le Pen, Nigel Farage, Elon Musk, I mean, they're all kind of waded in, attacking, I guess what they say, you know, are many of the reasons leading to this. Rachel?
It's a weird one for the far-right, though, isn't it? Because the alleged perpetrator is himself someone who is more drawn to far-right ideas, particularly around hostility to immigration and to refugees, and very critical of Germany for, obviously, several years ago being very welcoming to refugees, predominantly from Syria, which, as we can see now, you can see why so many people were fleeing that country. And it's weird as well, the far-right rally that was organised was really a result of exactly that misinformation, of it being pumped into the air supply somehow that this person, you know, is a symbol of all the things they hate, as opposed to someone who's very much on the same page.
There's so much we still don't know. But certainly the Interior Minister has said that the suspect was an Islamophobe. And I think the prosecutor said the motive appeared to be the treatment of Saudi refugees in Germany. But, you know, there's a lot of pieces missing. It's a strange one.
But it's certainly clear that he's not somebody in favour of immigration. He's somebody opposed to immigration. So for the far right to be claiming him as one of their own is straightforward misinformation. But we can agree on that, right?
And we've seen here with Southport how these things can blow up.
Exactly the same thing.
And build a life of their own. And obviously there's a lot more that will come out about this individual as, you know, as more information comes out. And he does seem to most people to be a dichotomy. To be, you know, from an area where, you know, a lot of people will immediately say, this is an immigrant, this therefore is, you know, an anti-German attack, and we must defend Germany. And obviously we've had chants, you know, Germany for Germans and so on. And yet it seems to be that he was also anti-immigration. So, yeah, a lot more will come out.
I think what it's showing us, isn't it, is that if you are far right, that's an ideology, and it actually doesn't have much to do with skin colour, does it?
No, no, it doesn't. But a lot of people will assume
think
that it does.
Yes.
Yep.
Let's move on to another aspect of this horrific one. The Daily Express, I think it's pages 6 and 7, has more on little Andre Glasner, who's the 9-year-old boy that was killed in the attack. 4 other women killed as well between the ages of 45 and 75. But, you know, this, all the deaths are horrific, but there's a lot more about this child and a lot of heartbreaking testimony from the family and friends of the family.
And of course, you know, losing a child at any time of year is, you know, is going to be absolutely horrendous for anybody. But there's something about it happening at Christmas when we are all thinking about being with our own family. And it's also the fact that this child has died, but there are 200 people injured, and, you know, a huge number, a significant proportion of those are critical. So I think we are expecting the death toll to go up. And because it was a Christmas market, unusual number of children, of course, at Christmas markets, and all of that. You know, as I said, you know, a death, you know, is a death, but there is something that's making it very poignant and particularly upsetting.
Because it was 7 p.m, so a lot of families with young children would still have been there, and he himself had wanted to go to the Christmas market.
Yeah, I mean, it really is devastating, because it is that time when people are with families, and Christmas markets are such family events. I mean, if you've had the chance to go to one across Europe, they're just delightful, and very much filled with families enjoying themselves and relaxing a little bit. And to have this just so horrifyingly disrupted by this act of terror, and it's just a huge amount of people injured, as you say, and obviously the results might be more serious in the days to come.
Yeah, I think that's what we're expecting.
I think there was one line about Andre Glasner from a friend of the family saying, of course, he's not going to be able to unwrap the presents that will be left under the tree. So, very tragic story. Let's move on to some domestic news. The economy. Let's start with the Eye. Pension protest. PM faces biggest rebellion yet in New Year vote. And this is about the women's state pension issue, the WASPy women. It kind of adds to the troubles that the Prime Minister is having. There's lots more, but let's start with this, Daisy.
I mean, this is very interesting because I think a lot of people within Downing Street and within the Labour Party thought we've got all these new MPs, they'll do what they're told. And the worm is already beginning to turn with a lot of these new MPs who don't seem to be as obedient as many thought they would be. And I think one of the problems is a lot of these new politicians are seeing that their core vote, and particularly those who actually go out and vote, the elderly, are pretty disgusted with a lot of the things that the Labour Party has done, whether it was winter fuel or whether it was WASPy women. And there's also the issue whereby the Labour Party is more popular than their leader, and that's never a comfortable position for a new leader. It's quite common if a leader's been around a bit, beginning to look a bit stale and a bit tired. It's very common for the party to be more popular than the leader, but to have a leader who has just won a stonking great majority, actually to have very, very poor popularity, that also means that a lot of these MPs aren't going to be as loyal to him as they would if he was riding higher in the polls. So I think the WASPy women is going to sting him.
I mean, it's interesting. This is all about cuts and trying to stimulate growth because, that they say they were left with a financial black hole. But if we look at the front pages of both the Daily Express and the Daily Mail, let's start with the Daily Express. Labour set to drive UK headlong into recession. The Mail has a similar headline. Economy is heading for the worst of all worlds. And these are figures or statements coming from the Confederation of British Industry, effectively saying that we're heading for difficult times.
Well, I think it's possible for two things to be true at exactly the same moment. And the first thing is that, right-wing press attacks Labour government on economy, shock, horror. I mean, that's just going to happen. Historically, it's always happened when there's been a Labour government. However, at the same time, it may also be true. And I think that Labour is a victim of its own boxing itself in to economic policy and fiscal policy and the stupid fiscal rule, which is a made-up Tory policy, that they didn't need to. They actually did not need to hem themselves in like that. And as a result, they are putting the burden on the most vulnerable in society, pensioners, winter fuel payments, child benefit cap. These are the most vulnerable in the society. I'm sure these new Labour MPs didn't get into Labour politics to take money away from the most vulnerable in our society. And they actually didn't need to do that. They could tear up that fiscal rule. They could say, actually, we're not going to do national insurance contributions because that sucks as a means of income.
But if they'd torn it up, then they would go back on everything they said in the campaign in order to get the election campaign, in order to get elected, by promising that they were going to stick to fiscal rules and promising they were going to be responsible.
Well, they've already broken their promises, so they might as well break their promises in a way that is better economically for more people.
And I do agree with you, shock, horror, the Express and the Mail criticising this, and the CBI criticising the CBI, obviously representing businesses who are very upset about what happened in the budget and very upset about the fact that employing people is going to be more expensive and so on. And I take the point, Richard Soames, who's the chairman of the CBI, he's Nicholas Soames' brother. You would expect him to be, of the right, and he's a big business leader. But the Labour Party does have a problem with business. They schmoozed and dined and wined and dined business so much in the run-up in order to get business, to reassure business that they were a safe pair of hands and that they could take over from the Conservative Party. And they have got a problem at the moment. I think they fully expected to irritate the hell out of business in the first few months because they knew they were going to announce the black hole, the mythical black hole, by the way. I mean, the black hole wasn't mythical, but the Conservatives and Labour both knew perfectly well that black hole was there. It's just that it didn't serve either of their purposes to tell the rest of us that black hole was there for electoral reasons. So, yes, no great surprise, and it is a relatively quiet news day tomorrow. So the Express and the Mail will be looking around saying, we'll go with a CBI report, which under normal circumstances...
Pretty sure they ran that last week.
Under normal circumstances wouldn't have had a lot of coverage.
Yeah.
But there is a problem with business and the Labour Party, and they are, by the time of the next election, they're going to have to fix it.
But that what you just said, Labour has a problem with business, is a right-wing paradigm. That's 3 decades of newspapers saying that. It's not actually a thing, right?
Well, it is, because business was not expecting the tax hikes that came in in the budget.
Correct.
And that came as a very, very nasty shock. And they did believe the hype. I mean, the Labour Party conference was extraordinary this year with the huge numbers of, big business beasts who were there fawning over Rachel Reeves and desperate to talk to her because, they had drunk the Kool-Aid and thought she was going to do what she says. Of course, she now says she has no choice because of the black hole and so on. And I have some sympathy with that in that she did have to, if she was going to stick to the fiscal rules, she did have to find the money from somewhere. But you can't do another 3.5 years constantly annoying these businesses that have been supporting you.
The businesses were annoyed over national insurance contributions, which she reneged on. I'm saying that was a dud move to begin with. But, businesses were quite into John McDonnell's economic policies back in his day. They absolutely were. The Financial Times ran these glowing report cards on John McDonnell's financial policies and how business-friendly he was, saying that there's 3 decades of Labour not being good with business and business not trusting Labour is a manufactured paradigm that's not actually a thing.
Yes, I would agree. I think business was very keen on a lot of Gordon Brown and Tony Blair's
broadband,
policies.
infrastructure, roads.
We're just going to have to move on from there, but we will be talking about business and politics again because coming up, having met Elon Musk last week, Reform UK's Treasurer promises political disruption like we have never seen before. We'll discuss that next.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
This is how you travel when the mafia wants to kill you.
He's almost given up his own freedom, but that's the price he's willing to pay.
Here, they don't just arrest and Drangheta mafia members, they also live among them.
Time after time, I've seen the devastating impact of extreme weather and climate change.
We don't have much snow at the moment.
They've had a warm spring and exceptionally hot summer, and that means they're expecting to lose more than 3 times the amount of ice than they usually do.
Flames are still forcing people from their homes and leaving many questioning their futures.
Here was my life. We have nothing. I can't say anything, it's so sad.
This disaster is testing the resolve of everyone on this island. The only way out now is by boat.
Everything you see is devastated, and the misery being felt by people living here is repeated in towns and villages across Central Europe. Sky News, get the full story first.
Turkey is burying its dead. The loss is profound.
Whole families died in this collapse, generations wiped out.
The violence has penetrated the heart of the city rather than being contained to the estates around the edge, and that speaks to the level of anger being felt here. In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
This is an example of an advert, really. Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Why only in America? People want their country to work.
You want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me now in the studio, Rachel Shabi and Daisy McAndrew. Let's go straight to the Financial Times. We're talking about business a little bit earlier. Links here. Candy vows, Nick Candy, to help reform disrupt UK politics like we have never seen before. So, Rachel, tell me about what's in this article, but also, you know, about all the suggestions that Elon Musk could be giving reform quite a lot of money.
Right. So the new treasurer of Nigel Farage's party Reform says, we've got loads more billionaires. We're going to be making bank from all these billionaire backers in addition to Elon Musk. Doesn't actually say who these billionaires are. Also, we're going to have to park for a moment that, you know, the party of the ordinary people is quite happy to be billionaire financed because that's the model for Trump and that seems to work just fine. But the whole idea of billionaire funding of parties, particularly if you're not a UK citizen, is something that the Electoral Commission is in discussion with the government about. And this all came to the fore over Elon Musk, who, of course, is not a British citizen, who has said that he wants to fund the Reform Party. There's a loophole in the UK where you can do it if you have through profits from a company domiciled in the UK. But that loophole, I would suggest, needs to be closed. The Commission has recommended something like that, and the government is now looking at it.
I think it is a sign that, you know, reform certainly is here to stay for a lot longer than people thought.
Yeah.
People thought once Brexit was done, and now, of course, we realise that at the last election they did incredibly well. But the quote here saying the oldest political party in the world will be Conservative Party will be overtaken by the youngest political party on the planet. And obviously, that is a quote from Nick Candy. But I think a lot of people do believe that that's a possibility. A few years ago, nobody would have thought that was a possibility. So I think it is fascinating how those sort of tectonic political plates have changed, and this is a sort of new reality that we've all got to get used to.
And what do you think the government should do, if anything, about, you know, money coming from foreigners?
I mean, one of the main things that all the parties would say is it needs to be a level playing field. Other people would say, well, why? Why should a small, unpopular party, you know, whichever party that is, be able to, say, cap the amount of donations that a bigger, more popular party, might be able to get? Other people would say because of, undue influence from foreigners and so on. So it's a difficult one. If the Labour Party looks like it's doing it to damage its opponent, that's a bad look.
I actually think you should cap all billionaire funding of politics. I think it has a distorting effect on politics, and we can see that to its extreme in the US.
Yeah. Speaking of the US, let's go to the Mail and the story about Hollywood's ugliest feud. Inside story of Blake Lively's bombshell sexual harassment claims about her co-star. Ironically, it happened on the film set of a film that is about an abusive relationship.
It is. The film is called It Ends With. I've come late to this story via my niece, who literally, as I was leaving home today, was explaining to me, very excitedly about all the ins and outs. And the story is fascinating. I think it is going to become, a really, really big story. There are two elements to it. In the filming of this movie, Blake Lively was very upset by some things that the producer, James Heath, and her co-star, Justin Baldoni, allegedly did. And the list of accusations is really horrible. It's everything from sort of kind of gutter talk to some really, to accusing him of sort of biting her lip and being overly sexual in sex scenes that what she wasn't prepared for, wasn't in the script, to, all sorts of, sort of sexually harassing talk and behaviour and so on. Anyway, many people noticed in the last few months that there were all these stories coming out trashing Blake Lively. She's a diva, she's difficult, she's impossible, typical Hollywood. And it looks like, so she's now suing them for destroying her reputation and also for their behaviour. And it looks from the disclosure of this court case that's just starting that there are these transcripts of emails from a crisis communications expert called Melissa Nathan, sort of seemingly allegedly saying we can trash her before these accusations she's making about us get out there will besmirch her.
And Rachel, just before coming to you, worth pointing out that, of course, they both deny all allegations of wrongdoing.
And Justin Baldoni's just lost his agent.
OK.
Today.
Rachel?
I find it extraordinary, this whole reputation damage that essentially a PR company can allegedly do.
Yeah.
You know, just decide to do it.
She's a big star, Blake. Like,
right.
You'd think she'd be... And you know, Hollywood royalty as well because of her husband.
Yeah, like a total Hollywood power couple. And yet, reputation damage can be unleashed, allegedly.
Well, it's good for a completely different story, and end on that, the Daily Star. So there it is. The headline, Jingle Smells, basically bad festive hygiene. Now, I can't believe some of the details here. Daisy.
So this poll that Daily Star, first of all, you know, they always do great front pages, but Jingle Smells, millions won't shower between Christmas and New Year. They're saying this poll has revealed, and I thought, oh, this is going to be, you know, millions of people around the world. And apparently, I was trying to look at, apparently it's not, apparently it's millions of Brits won't shower between Christmas.
What about the New Year's Eve parties?
And won't change their underwear either. I mean, and then they've got this cat and dog with the clothes pegs on their nose. But I would love to, and they're calling it a festive pongdemic warning. But yes, I did try to do some due diligence on this and find out what this poll was, but I've failed so far. But I would love to know if any viewers would admit to that.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing, it's that goblin mode, isn't it? Where you just go a bit feral for a few days, but you do that when you're on your own.
Or if
when you're
camping,
surrounded by family, right? Well, I never go camping.
Rachel, Daisy, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both so much. And coming up next on Sky News at 11, tributes are paid to the youngest victim of Germany's Christmas market attack, 9-year-old Andre Geleisner.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional. This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
This is Sky News at 11 o'clock. The headlines this evening. The mother of a child killed in Germany's Christmas market attack says he will always live on in her heart. German authorities face questions over how the attack was allowed to happen and what was known about the suspect. Also ahead, we speak to a family in the West Bank who say they're fighting